come back to Chadderton Cemetery again today because I want to have another look down the bottom end here. There was a grave I was looking at yesterday and it was a guy called Eli Lees. I thought it said Ellie Lees, but then I got corrected. It's actually Eli, E-L-I. Now, it says something about him sort of being all over various different points of the world and what have you. So I looked it up, and if it's the right guy, trying to find the grave again. If it's the right guy, he was a sort of, where it is, Eli Lees, 102 Lancaster Gate, London, and Werneth Park, Oldham, who died January 19th, 1892, aged 77, and also his wife. Now, if I'm right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously I'm just researching on the internet, but if I'm right, this bloke had cotton mills or something to do with the rag trade, and he had quite a lot to do with stuff coming over from America, so he was in with the slave trade as well. Profited quite well off it, from what I can gather. If that's the same person, I mean, that's a huge grave, isn't it? You know, with quite a prominent sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Headstone, so that monument. So I'm pretty sure it's probably the same guy. When I did my research yesterday, funnily enough, I'm pretty sure they had something to do with the Williams. They all lived in Werneth Park. So it must be in one of them fancy houses, or at some point they've all, I don't know. But yeah, I was watching my video about last night, and I was just thinking I'd absolutely love to have one of them houses there, you know, so you could look over at the graveyard at night. A bit weird, aren't I? So anyway, yeah. Oh my God, this guy was born exactly the same date as me, but hundreds of years earlier. I was born in 1975 and he was born in 1836. Funnily enough, he died in 1876. 100 years before I was born. Very strange. It's a bit cold today, and like a fool I decided that I weren't going to bring I wasn't going to bring any bloody coat out. It is a little bit cold. Look at this. Henry Charles Lee died 1935, and then look at that, from his workmates at Owl Mill. I'm going to look that up and see what Owl Mill is, because that might be like quite an old pot. That lovely, isn't it? This was built by E. Butterworth. Wow, look at this. Another one by E. Butterworth here. Also, there's a grave up the top near the Clegs. I think it's called Sutcliffe. God, I'm going off memory. I've got a really bad memory as well. But that guy had Lower House Mills. I think that's, I don't know if anyone knows, but that's the mill that collapsed, killed about 20 people, and the collapse just went. And I'm pretty sure there's from when I went up to Greenacre Cemetery a while ago, again I'll have to fact check it, but I've not been back up since, but I'm pretty sure there's a guy buried there, something to do with Lower House, and I'm wondering if he died in that. But he's got a big massive monument, you know, like, so these ones down here seem fairly grand, but not as grand as them up there. I mean, that's really the epicentre of all the huge, seems to filter off as we come down here. Maybe this was a bit of a cheaper area to buy. There's a few people walking around the graveyard today. I think everyone's getting the same idea, you know, where's it safe to go. 2 more people here. I think what we'll do is take a walk down this side here because some huge ones here. Ellis Mills of High Street, Oldham, died 14th of November 1877, and also his daughter of Emma, daughter of Ellis and Ellis Mills. She died in 1928, aged 86. Dragging something along there with my dress. This cough, by the way, I've had it for ages. I had it since I came back from Italy last year. Doctor said I'm fine. They just can't tell me why I'm coughing. Lungs are fine, everything else. But it usually comes when I feel like something moving in my ears. And then when it sort of irritates me, if you know what I mean. And that's what sets it off. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm out here and I should be self-isolating because I'm displaying symptoms. Because it's basically something I've had for a while. It's just one of those things. So what have we got here? Benjamin Little, born 1793, died 27th July 1851 and was interred at St Margaret's Church, Hollingwood. Oh, that's interesting because St Margaret's is where I went the other day. I didn't see that one. Martha, wife of the above, died in 1828, was interred at Lees Parish Church. So who's actually in this one then? Oh, George Little, Colliston Park Road, Southport, born 1823, died 1896. I'm wondering if he actually is buried here or it's just a monument to... He's buried elsewhere, but that other one is St Margaret's. I've not seen that. Now this one, James Platt MP, did a bit of research on him yesterday. So I mentioned in my video yesterday that he died in his 30s, and the story is he went shooting. I think it was with a Justice of the Peace of Oldham or a Mayor of Oldham or something. He actually lived, if anyone knows Dovestones Reservoir, there used to be a house there called Ashworth Gap. Big massive old mansion, absolutely beautiful it was. It was actually built by his brother John in the mid 1800s. Anyway, what he did, he went shooting and this guy was climbing across the rock and he stumbled and he had his gun half cocked. But what happened was he when he went to steady himself, the gun went off and it shot James Platt in the calf, I believe. And what they said the blast had basically blasted away all of the muscle around it. You could see all the bone exposed and he was losing a lot of blood. And what they did, they made a tourniquet and tied it round his leg. And then they all carried him back to Ashworth Gap. And while he was there in the house, he died. What they said is that when he was on the bed was absolutely soaked in blood. Basically, just bled out. There was nothing they could do. They called for doctors from Manchester and Stalybridge, but no one was able to help him. So that's why he died. And the guy that caused the shooting, he didn't do it on purpose, poor thing. Apparently he struggled. They thought he was going to take his life for a long time. And then on this side you've got Lucy Murray, which is his wife. So yeah, they lived in Ashworth Gap. That house was sold in the 1920s to a water board, and then they left it there. In fact, they've knocked it down a few years ago. They said it wasn't safe. My mum went in a few years ago and she said they got into the kitchen, her and her sister. You couldn't get into much of it because it was all derelict inside. This was before they knocked it down in the 80s or 90s or whenever it was. Anyway, she went with her sister and they went in, and she says we walked in, she said you could see into this big massive kitchen, and she said it was just beautiful, and there was a big old antique table in there, you know, what someone would have sat and had the dinner on. So that could have been James Platt's. Who knows? But yeah, the house isn't there now. But if you go up to Dovestones, you might notice that there's just some steps that are just in the middle of like a field, like 3 or 4 steps going up, and that was the steps to the door of Ashway Gap. So yeah, it's a shame they knocked it down. It had like a castle structure as well. The other thing, what was I going to say? Yeah, so anyway, that's the story behind James Platt, how he died and what happened and why he died so young. So just having a look over here now, see if we can find something else. A lot of this, I mean, obviously I don't know who to research in here. If you look online, it just gives you names and plots. It doesn't give you much, and then you might get lucky. You go home, you see a name, you Google it, and you might get lucky and find something that's quite interesting. You're like, I just stumbled across the I didn't realise there was 2 Platt graves. I've been to the other one, obviously, but it's interesting, isn't it, when you can look back and find out what happened to someone. And if you go on YouTube and type in Ashway Gap, there's a man who's got a YouTube channel on there, and he's got a video. He did it in the 70s. I think it must be his wife and kid that he's filmed. He doesn't say, but I'm assuming 1976. There's a kid in a pram, so it's about the same age as me, and they're walking around it, not inside it, but just walking around it, and it's fabulous. There isn't that much left of it now. There was a series apparently, my mum told me last night, made in the 70s or the 80s, and that was the house that they used. Can't remember what she called it, the Bumbles or something. Anyway, let's go off that subject now. Let's see what else I can find. So, oh, it's cold. Why didn't I bring a coat? Here we go. What's this one? This looks old. Thomas, son of James and Mary Taylor of Windsor Road, Wearmouth, who died on the 18th of May 1960 after a lingering illness which he bore with Christian fortitude, also of Lees, their son, who died June 1837 in his first year and was interred at the parish church in Oldham. Well, I've been there as well. Is that the main church, is it? Look at this. It says the first stone erected in this ground. I wonder if this was the first grave ever then. That's what it seems to suggest, wouldn't it? Can't be though, because there's older graves in here. God, it's freaking me out. There's noises coming from this floor. It's me stepping on things. So this is really aged Joseph. Can't read it. Excuse me. Albert Ashton, MB, CHB. Wonder what MB is. Died at Perham Island. You know that? I've seen this yesterday. That Queen's Road. I googled it last night, thinking, where's that near the park? And it's that really, really nice road. If you've seen it, those old houses sort of backs onto Glodick Road. The beautiful houses that overlook the park, the big mild mansions, and that's where a lot of these people lived that are in this cemetery. You know, before they were bought up and turned into old folks' homes and things. Well, that's interesting. Look, memory of John Ashworth. Just talking about Ashworth Gap, weren't we? It's nothing to do with them though, I don't think. As I said, that were built by his brother. So, So I think that's enough for today. I think I'll go back now. And I think tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll have another run up to Green Acres. And I'll tell you where there is another one as well, but you can never get in. Up in Lees, where you turn right as if you're going into Lees. So you're on Huddersfield Road, is it? Then you turn right and you go down that road and you go past the Grapes, as if you're heading to Leeds town centre. And there's There's a little cemetery there, all overgrown, but you can never get in. So I'm going to try and see if I can get in there tomorrow. But yeah, that's all.